Now today's bonus class for Azon SEO Master, I'm going to be showing you the strategies that I have taught in this training series, but I'm going to be doing it from more your perspective this time, where you're trying to take this knowledge and go out and find yourself a niche, a good keyword phrase to target on Google, and finalize all that so you can proceed on to actually start planning and building your website. So I'm going to be pulling up some actual live pages today. I'm not doing a slideshow presentation, so I can walk you guys through this entire process. So the most common question I typically receive, and things that I often see other affiliates out there talking about on forums and whatnot, is mostly that it's difficult to conceive exactly what your niche and primary keyword phrase should be that you're targeting on a website. Some people will simply try to build a website about everything, and ultimately that's a really bad idea. Even if you narrow down your focus to something really specific, like swimming pools, for example, that's just one type of product. A lot of people might view that as being a niche and try to then go and build a website about swimming pools where they cover the pools and all the different accessories and everything that goes along with it. Ultimately, that is not really giving yourself and your website enough focus to where Google will actually pay attention to what you have to say. You want to have something that is really so focused that chances are very few other people in the whole world would actually be building a website just about that one particular subject. So you would need to take a subject matter like swimming pools and drill even deeper down into it before you can actually finalize a selection. So in case you are at the point where you have a very general keyword phrase or niche idea in mind that you would like to target, maybe you already have information about something like swimming pools, I would like to help guide you through the process of taking that general idea, drilling it down into a more focused idea, and then verifying whether that is a good idea to actually proceed with building a website about. So I'm just going to start out here by entering in a generic phrase like pools. And I'm going to click on the Get Ideas button and let Google pull up some keywords for me. Now I'm in the keyword planner here. I've talked about this in the guidebook and also the training videos throughout this series. I'm going to go into the keyword ideas tab here. Now I can see a long list of different kinds of keyword phrases. Ultimately, any one of these phrases could potentially be that narrowed down niche that I am ultimately trying to target here, but it doesn't mean that they are all going to be possibilities. You really need to look at them a little bit closer and ask yourself if that is more focused than the original niche that I am searching for up here. So I don't just want to be building a site about pools, so I need to make sure that focus is getting more specialized with my keyword selection. Now another thing that I am focused on is ultimately the competition that this keyword phrase is going to receive on Google, because I need to be able to compete with all the other websites that are out there to be able to get good rankings on that keyword phrase to ultimately bring traffic to my site to convert it into sales. Now, this monthly count right here is one of the initial things that I'm looking at to try to gauge my competition. When I see these really high numbers right here, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that the competition for them is high. And I don't even bother with them. I don't look at them. I don't go and research additional information about them. I just completely toss them out as being possibilities. Yes, it would be great to have a ranking on one of these phrases. You'd get a ton of traffic if you were the #1 ranking on swimming pools. But it's simply not going to happen with the type of websites we're building. These are going to be long established websites that have tons of content and backlinks, and they may even have really large advertising budgets backing them up. So these are not the type of websites you want to be competing with. So what I like to do is click on the average monthly search column right here. And this will actually sort everything from high to low or from low to high. So a lot of times I will like to start with low to high. This is typically the opposite of what most people are going to be doing when they are using the keyword planner. So that is really what I'm trying to think of here. What is everybody else doing? And once I figure that out, I want to do the opposite of that, because that is going to put me in the realm of less competition. So I don't want to look at the bottom of the barrel keyword phrases, but what I want to do is try to go somewhere in the middle of the range, essentially right below where I think everybody else is going to be searching. Now 500 is kind of a magic number that a lot of people try to stay above with the average monthly search count. So I like to look immediately below it. I like to check out all of these 480 count phrases right here. So scan through this list. It might even be a couple pages long. You can see if I go back another page, there's an entire other page here of 480 count keyword phrases. So I want to look through this list and try to figure out which keyword phrases here could potentially be good narrowed down niche subjects that I could use to center an entire website around that would also have fairly minimal search competition. One right here, pool exercise equipment. I could see this as being a possibility. It's related to being about pools, but it is one very specific thing about pools. You're not trying to target everything. So I'm going to take this keyword phrase and jump over to Google. Now I like to start out by doing an all-in title search. I type the phrase all-in title with a semicolon, and then I surround my keyword phrase in double quotation marks. So after I search this particular phrase, what I am looking for is right up here at the top. I want to know how many Google results are returned for this particular search. There are about 854 pages on the entire internet that Google has indexed, at least, that contain the keyword phrase pool exercise equipment in the title of the page. So you can see going down here, each of these has it in the title, and if you can't see it, it is likely further off the edge. Now, these are essentially the other pages on the internet that you're going to have to compete with. These are the other pages that are obviously making an attempt to get a search ranking themselves on this particular phrase. Anytime you can find a number that is below 1,000, it is typically a really good sign that you have low competition on that phrase, and it might be a potential keyword phrase that you could target as the primary keyword phrase for your entire website. Now, some people also ask, well, is 480 monthly searches really enough traffic? You know, that's only 16 people a day actually searching for that phrase. Well, you're also not going to get all 16 of those people. Ultimately, your primary keyword phrase here is really just something you should view as a starting point for your niche. You're going to have other keyword phrases associated with topics relating to this subject. And you're also going to be able to get search rankings on some of those phrases as well. So you're ultimately looking for a collective group of keyword phrases that can deliver you a decent amount of traffic. And I've done a lot of websites based off of a 480 count phrase for the primary keyword that I am targeting, and they have worked out quite well, so I can definitely guarantee that there is enough traffic in this and all of the other associated phrases that come along with it. So once you have a potential candidate here, pool exercise equipment, you want to go and run a couple of other checks on this keyword phrase. One of them that I like to do is Google Trends. I can take the keyword, punch it in here, and Google will tell me what the long-term trends are for this keyword phrase. With this information here, and also the information available on the keyword planner, I can get an overall picture of what traffic is really like on this keyword phrase. First of all, on the keyword planner here, when you hover over this box, you get to find out the exact monthly counts for each of the last 12 months. This is where you can figure out whether certain phrases might be trending or whether they might possibly be seasonal phrases. Obviously, anything pool related is going to be seasonal, and so you're going to have your busy summer months and actually would get 1,000 monthly searches here during the summer on this phrase, even though it's only listed as being 480. So the summer months would actually be pretty busy. Now, going back to the Google Trends, I can get an idea of whether this type of niche is going to be improving or declining over the next couple of years. If you look at the different peaks that are available for each of the different years and compare your numbers, you can kind of figure out when the product was at its peak popularity and also where it is heading now. Now the recent peaks here were June and May-ish in 2012 and 2013. It kind of appears to be on the decline, especially once you jump over to 2014 here. Now sometimes up here at the top, it will let you actually forecast what is going to happen. But if the search traffic is not high enough, then you may not be able to. What you can sometimes do though is to get a little more general with your keyword phrase here in Google Trends just to find out whether something is on the decline or whether it's going to be increasing. I could get a little more general here and just search for pool exercise. And it can kind of give me a clearer picture of whether pool exercise in general is trending up or trending down over the last number of years. So looking at this picture here, it doesn't look quite as scary as the last graph that I was looking at. So you always need to be considering these outlying factors where a limited amount of data showing up here in Google Trends, especially for a lower traffic keyword phrase, you're not going to get as good of a picture of what's really going on. So go for a slightly larger phrase just to get an idea of what is going on in that possible niche. And as you can see right here, by getting more general, I can also get a forecast, and it can tell me whether it might be a little more or a little less popular next year. So I see the peak this year is at 69, and the peak next year is forecasted to be at 68. So it is showing me a slight possible decline in the future for this particular niche. And I couldn't have found that out if I was only focused on the keyword phrase that I had originally started with. Now, domain names are another thing that I discussed in this training course. You can obviously go for the general exact match domain names, where I would type in pool exercise equipment and look to see whether that is available as a .com domain name. Now, for this particular instance, it is not available. It doesn't mean that I would have to completely ignore this possible niche, but I would want to go and explore whether this website is already built. And if they are doing something with it, try to figure out how it's doing in the Google rankings, at least if it looks like it would be anything close to what you decide to build. If it looks like it is a complete junk website, don't take that as anything too serious in terms of that you would experience the same results with it. Because as long as you are not going to build a junk website under that domain name, if you actually put some unique content there, you're not going to end up with those same results. And so you don't always have to go for the exact match domain. A lot of people reach this point and they have a great niche picked out, and everything else seems to check out with it, and they just can't find the exact match domain. So they throw it out and completely go back to the beginning and start over. If you reach this point and everything else checks out, pick a branded domain name. Do anything with the words pool and exercise in it, or any combination of that. As long as you have one or two of these words, pool, exercise, or equipment, in your branded domain name that you go for, then it will end up working out okay. You'll get some of the similar benefits as having an exact match domain, but you will also get a more unique approach to that. Now, ultimately, if I had to decide, just from the information that I have seen so far, whether or not to build a website surrounding this particular keyword phrase, pool exercise equipment, I would want to find out a little bit more in terms of what is showing up when I actually search that phrase on Google. I see something very different here when I switch over to searching the actual phrase instead of the all-in title phrase. This looks to be a very heavy shopping phrase, and therefore I end up competing with a lot of these other major websites like eBay, and Amazon here actually has the #1 ranking. Now, I have been able to successfully compete with these websites before. I have dethroned Amazon off of a #1 ranking. However, it doesn't necessarily mean that if all the results are packed with these type of websites that you really want to mess with that. If you're not already seeing that exact match domain that was registered showing up here in the top 10, especially if you can then go and verify that that website has already been built, it can already be proof positive that the competition is indeed too much. That's actually one of the reasons why I kind of like to avoid these direct sales related keyword phrases here. Something where Google knows it is a phrase that people would search when they're looking for a particular kind of product, and therefore they show the Google shopping results over here. So if I see the Google shopping results, I will often reconsider whether this is the best approach, because the competition could be pretty heavy. Now, you can always go about targeting your websites in different ways. Some people like going after these types of keyword phrases. Other people like going after more informational phrases. Personally, I am more one of the informational approach type of people. I'm going to go back to my list here just to keep browsing through to see if anything else sticks out at me. You obviously have a lot of informational phrases here. Things like above ground pool installation cost. But you need to think, whenever you're targeting information, whether that information can lead to the purchase of an Amazon product or not. Personally, I would look at this phrase and think that it is something going to be more related to a local service where people obviously are going to be installing it. So this most likely would not be related to a physical product that you could actually sell the people that are visiting these websites. So you just need to think a little bit deeper when you try to target information and ask yourself if you can connect that information to whatever it is you're trying to sell to the people that are going to visit that website. Now, another informational phrase I see here, above ground pool sizes. This particular phrase is actually something that I have targeted, but not in this particular niche before. I'm really referring to the end here of this particular phrase, sizes. When you are talking about a kind of product and sizes, this is an informational approach that a lot of other marketers are ignoring. They cast this off as being purely information and not something that you can connect to a sale. But I've built websites surrounding sizes related topics where there might be some kind of confusion in picking out the correct size of that product. Obviously, for an above ground pool, there would be all kinds of different factors that would go into selecting the correct size. You have cost, you have the actual area that you can put things into, you might have a deck, you have different types of equipment that go along with the pool. So you have all these different factors related to it, and you can actually give people that information on a website and help them out with their problems and forward them along to the sale. You essentially become the middleman in the deal. I've done this before and it works. So I'm going to go and explore this particular phrase just to find out if it could be a possibility to target. So I'm going to search the all in title now, and I actually see 213 results. This is even lower than I had before. So again, a really good indication. you will see a lot of phrases out there when you're doing this all-in title that are 5,000, 10,000, maybe even 50 or 100,000 results. So when you see something that is below 1,000, do some more investigation into it and try to figure out whether it is something you could feasibly target on a website or not. So I could then go through and check out all the different things. I could look at Google Trends here and see what is going on with this keyword phrase. Again, since I am doing a more general or a specific phrase here, I'm not going to get really great results in terms of telling me what's going on with the traffic over time on this phrase. But if I got a little more general and just searched for above ground pulls, I could get much more clear picture and even potentially a future forecast. Now these show that this summer and potentially next summer might have the same traffic. Over time, it does look a little bit rocky, but anytime I look at one of these trends graphs, I always try to remember the recession going on right in these years or so. You're always going to have messed up results here. Try not to look too deep into what was actually happening there. Just look at what was going on before it and see whether the niche is trying to recover from that recession or not. Now again, I could proceed on and look to find out if an exact match domain happened to be available. And this time, one actually is. So I could register that domain and go after that keyword phrase. And I could target different above ground pools that are being sold on Amazon, which would obviously offer some pretty decent commissions for referring those sales. Even though the exact match is available, I could still decide to go for some kind of branded domain. I could always do agpsizes.com, where I simply abbreviate the words that are part of my keyword phrase. And I would end up with a short, really easy to remember domain name, at least in terms of what I had before, which was a really long forward phrase. So think about the length of your domain that you're going for. If I'm looking at a phrase that is 4 words or more, I will often reconsider whether I want to go after an exact match domain. I will explore my other possibilities first. Now I want to jump back over to the keyword planner here for just a couple minutes. Talk about a couple of other things that you may be considering, or also some other possibilities for you to give you some more ideas that you can go and explore yourself. Some of the keyword phrases, both in this list and I can pretty much guarantee in any other list that you might also pull up when you're doing your own searches, you're going to see keywords like this one right here, Onga pool pumps. If you're not quite sure what the word is that's part of this phrase that you're not familiar with, Onga right here, I guess there's a possibility this could be a word that I've just never heard of, and it might be a particular type of pool pump, but chances are this is going to be a brand name. I can always verify this by simply going over to Google and searching it. If I can't get good results, I type in the full keyword phrase and I might get a clearer picture of what's really going on. So Onga Pumps is indeed a brand name. So obviously, if I find a keyword phrase that is a brand name keyword phrase here that includes any kind of word that might be a brand name or a trademarked word, anything of that nature. You want to be really, really careful about what you're going to do with those phrases. Tons of people will simply go and register ongapoolpumps.com, and they'll set up an Amazon site and build it up and maybe even get a good search ranking for it and start referring sales. It might sound all good and everything, but this is a dangerous situation because Onga has the legal right to any domain that you ever register with that word in it. And this goes for basically any other company that is out there. And it could possibly even apply to different types of product models within a brand name, because a lot of times those will be registered as well. Just for example, a lot of the computers and even cars, and it really applies to pretty much any niche out there. You'll have a brand name, but then you'll have a model name that is essentially branded itself too. It becomes a highly recognizable name, and they trademark it. You'll see the little TM sitting right next to it if you're looking at some of the product packaging or whatever that contains that. Those are also words that you want to completely avoid in your domain names itself. However, it doesn't mean that you can't try to target these keyword phrases. So I wanted to show you a tactic that you can use if you are interested in going after one of these keywords right here that has a brand name in it, something that you know you can't legally register in a domain name. I want to show you how to get around that and still stay on the legal side of things, so they can't come and try to seize your website and shut down your Amazon account and reclaim all of your past earnings from it. Now, one way that you can do it is by just having a normal website. I could have a website about pool pumps in general, and then I could have a different section of that website devoted to each of the brand names that are out there, and I can try to target them in that manner within my website, as long as I'm not actually using this in my domain name. I could put this as part of a page title within my website, but I can't use it as a domain. I can't use it as a subdomain either. Beyond just that general usage of simply building a page on your pool pump site about Onga, another thing that you can do is to use another word, kind of like the sizes word right here. You could put sizes along with pretty much any niche that is out there. There are some exceptions to that. But there is another word here that you can add on to any niche that actually would apply to any situation, and that is brands. And I have done successful websites using this too. So I could simply search for pool pump brands. Now, there is not a lot of keyword traffic for this particular phrase. However, there is a lot of traffic for this brands phrase in other niches. Not necessarily every niche that is out there, but there are a lot of them that are really, really popular. And you can register poolpumpbrands.com, and then you can build a section on your website for each of the different pool pump brands that are out there. And those sections of your website can target those brand name and trademark keyword phrases without getting into legal trouble. So one of the things that I will sometimes do is just go to the keyword planner and just search the word brands. And I will go down below and look at the different keyword phrases that it is listing for me. Now you kind of have to get in the middle of the road here to actually start getting good results, but as you can see, some of these Swiss watch brands, for example, has 14,000 monthly searches on it. Now obviously you still need to go and do your additional research here with your competition on Google and your long-term trends, and also to figure out what you're going to do about your domain name before you decide to just jump for one of these. You know, you don't necessarily want to go for one of these huge traffic phrases, but there are a lot of them if you keep searching through them. Now obviously you have the tactic that I showed you briefly in the course where you can find available exact match domain names in bulk. You click on this little download button up here, you click on the download button once again, and then you download a comma separated value file. Of course it froze my Firefox, there it goes. You can then use this information from your comma separated value file to quickly figure out which of these keywords are available as an exact match domain, to kind of narrow down your selection when you're going through one of these lists of different niches like this, using the word brand or brands, or even using the word sizes. You can get really large lists here of all different types of niches that people are searching for. And I have built brand related websites that have worked out really, really well, targeting it just like I was talking to you about before, where I will just build a particular brand as its own standalone section, or maybe just a standalone page on that particular website. And then I can promote some of those brand products on that page on Amazon and earn commissions that way. Now I want to take this listing here of these keyword phrases that I downloaded and actually find a decent phrase from this list here. Now I'm using OpenOffice to open this comma separated value file. A lot of people often get a little confused about what to do with this file, especially if you're not familiar with spreadsheets and the different types of delimiters that can be used in them. You have all these different things that can separate the information. And if you look down below, I have arrows separating everything right now. This is actually the tab, and I want to click on this checkbox, and it'll split everything up correctly for me by doing so. So now what I can do, I have my monthly search counts listed for me in this column right here. I could look for phrases that were a reasonable amount of traffic, 480 possibly, up through maybe 1,000. And then I want to select this entire list and paste it into a notepad file. Now all I'm looking to do is replace my spaces with nothing to turn all of these into phrases that I can actually drop into GoDaddy now and search for the available domain names here. They keep redesigning their site. Where's their little bulk search page now? There we go. So when you get to the bulk search page, all you want to do is paste that list in and click on .com over here and search for them. So now I have narrowed down my focus and only picked out the proper traffic levels for those different phrases that I am ultimately interested in. Not quite sure why this page isn't loading up for me. This typically works fine. I'm not quite sure if it is the webinar running or whether maybe GoDaddy might even be having some issues. They are running a sale right now. There it goes. I'm not quite sure why that took it a minute. So now I can go down below and look at my list of these different brand-based keyword phrases that are between 500 and 1,000 monthly searches. So these are all going to be in that sweet spot, essentially, that a lot of people are actually looking for. And as you can see, there are 76 of them that are available. Any one of these, as long as it relates to a particular niche related subject, could possibly be a great idea for a website. Now, you do want to be choosy about what you pick. Look through the list, and there may be some of them that ultimately wouldn't really make a good website. Brandnameslist.com. That wouldn't make a very good website because it would be about all brand names and not specifically relating to a particular niche market. There might be other uses of the word brand or brands that doesn't actually apply to what you're trying to do. Circobrand.com, for example. Circo might actually be the brand name. So don't just blindly pick one of these phrases just because it is available. But again, this is a great list that you can start with, and you can do this with both brands, and size or sizes as a word connecting on to pretty much any niche. And again, these will all make really great focused niche websites for you. And a lot of times the competition, once you actually go through that research on Google, you'll find that a lot of these do not have a lot of competition because, again, they are still informational based. Even though when I think about a brand website, a listing of different brands for a particular niche, topsnowboardbrands.com. Sure, there's going to be information on that website about the different brand names, but I can totally see that website also promoting snowboards on that website through Amazon and earning commissions. And I've done this before. I've done it with all kinds of different niches. Guitars, for example, has worked out really, really well. You want to look for a product that is maybe $100, $200. If you can get a little more expensive and go up into products that range from maybe $100 up to $1,000, the guitar niche happens to be one of those niches. You'll have your cheaper guitars, and then you'll have your more expensive products. You can earn some really good commissions and get really good, highly targeted traffic off of Google if you're simply careful about how you go about picking your primary keyword phrase and then proceeding on with how you would actually go about building that website. Let's say, for example, I was going to build topsnowboardbrands.com. I could go over to the Google Keyword Planner and search in top snowboard brands and try to figure out if anything was coming up on this list here. I want to search by relevance, and you can also sometimes find other relational keyword phrases that are related to your brand search, and not all the time, but sometimes you'll be able to find actual keyword phrases for those different brands. But in certain niches, you will not always find that list. If you can't find that list, go to Google and search for it. You can go and look at another website that you might actually be competing against and figure out what brands they are talking about. Burton and K2, for example. And then go back to Google and search for one of those brand names associated with your niche market. Burton Snowboards gets 60,000 monthly searches. Now, obviously, I'm not going to be able to compete with a really high traffic phrase like this. However, there will be a lot of these brand phrases like this that you can get good rankings for by simply building one of these brand websites. So you can not only get a good ranking for the actual brand or brand's keyword phrase, but then you can get other rankings with the additional pages that you build on your site for these specific brands within that niche. And this is how you take the idea of just one single keyword phrase and expand it into an entire website where you might have 20, 30, 40, 50 different pages. Personally, I recommend to build about a 20-page website, at least as a minimum when you're trying to target one of these more focused niche subjects. I feel like that is kind of on the low end of the content that Google is ultimately looking for relating to that subject matter, to where they're actually willing to give you some good rankings and respect your website for what you have built. Now, beyond this point, you obviously want to go through and plan out all the different pages of your website. I recommend doing a lot of that based on keyword phrases, but I still recommend having a number of pages on your site that have nothing to do with a specific keyword phrase whatsoever. You would want to make it about your subject matter still in some way, form, or fashion, but don't design the entire page around a keyword phrase. Talk about some relative news for your niche. Talk about an event that's going on somewhere relating to your niche. Put some kind of informational page on your snowboard site, for example. Have a page that teaches people about snowboarding or about maintaining their snowboard, and don't worry about whether there is search traffic relating to those phrases or not. The reason why I make this recommendation is because ultimately this list of keyword phrases here, it comes straight off of Google. So then when you build an entire website that is nothing but pages targeting these keyword phrases, I can't fathom that Google doesn't pick up on that. And while it may have worked 5, 10 years ago, I used to have tons of websites where you could just pile keyword phrases on those websites, and you would get great rankings on them. But that doesn't work anymore. Google has evolved, and you have to evolve with them and essentially give them the type of websites that they actually want. And these days, they are not looking for junk websites anymore. They actually pay people to go out on Google. They'll give them keyword phrases and say, go search that keyword phrase. And I want you to look through the top 10 results there and actually go and view that web page and then rank it 1 to 5 based on how relevant that page is to the actual search keyword phrase. Whether it helps to solve or answer that question or problem that the person might have had when they were searching the keyword phrase. They're manually checking their own search results to verify that they are actually good search results. Because what is Google in the business of? They're a search company. They want to deliver the best search rankings to people when they go and search on Google. And so ultimately, you can't try to get around that fact. You have to embrace that fact to be able to get recognized by Google and to actually be put into the search rankings. And the real key is to stay there long term. And the only way you can possibly do that is to give them what they're looking for. Anytime you might use some kind of new trick that comes along, ask yourself whether it is good for your website in terms of Google, or whether Google would frown upon that type of behavior. And ultimately, if it's not something that they would embrace, I would highly recommend against it, because they will find it out eventually when they go through and do those manual searches. I promise they happen. They happen all the time on a daily basis. They use an independent company, and people are churning through their search results all the time to try to weed out the good ones from the bad ones. Now, beyond your site planning, when you have the whole thing figured out, you know exactly what you're going to be building on all your different pages, I really recommend not to start your construction until that point. I like to know exactly what I'm going to be doing on my site before I even build it. If you take the little bit of extra time to actually do this when you're building your own websites, you will find that you build more websites that are actually successful and less websites that just sit there and collect dust, or maybe even sites that you end up not completing. You get part of the way through the project and you realize it's not going to work for one reason or another, and so you abandon it and move on to something else. When you plan and research everything out thoroughly ahead of time, you can avoid those problems and help to save yourself a ton of time and headaches too. Now, after you had purchased Azon SEO Master, you were shown my complete home study course. It is actually on this page right here. Just in case you did not already get a chance to take a look at it though, I would highly recommend to do so. It goes beyond Azon SEO Master and teaches you everything else that I do in terms of building my Amazon affiliate websites. And ultimately, even if you're not involved with Amazon, if you're building other niche websites for other purposes, my training still applies. Really only a small portion of it, a lesson or two, applies to Amazon itself. Everything else applies to how I build and market my websites, and I really do that the same way no matter what kind of website I'm trying to build. Now, if you have already picked up my home study course, I have a second home study course that I actually just released in the last week or two, roughly. This home study course teaches a completely different method of building Amazon sites. This type of site with my first home study course teaches you to build more of a static website where you build 20 pages centered around a particular niche, and then you leave that website alone and you proceed on to the next one. So this is more of a churn and burn strategy. This strategy, however, is something where you're going to take a lot more time and continue to update a website over the course of time. But the big difference with building the two types of sites, more of the static website versus more of a blog style website, with the blog style website, you can build recurring customers. You can build a newsletter list where you have people that visit your site and people that are interested in the things you talk about and the products that you promote. You get them on a list, you get them on a Facebook fan page, you get them connected up with other social media, and then as you continually build more new content on your site, you can get these same people to visit your site over and over again and even buy products over and over again from you. The contrast here, while this website will take you more time, and obviously you're not going to be able to build a ton of different blog style websites, whereas you could build a lot of these more static style websites. The blog style websites are going to be able to grow in traffic, whereas your static websites, your traffic is essentially based off of whatever you can pull in from Google. On a blog style website though, you get what you can pull in from Google, but then in addition to that, you're also building your own traffic through your social media, through your newsletters and stuff like that, and then you're promoting your content that you're building on your site over the course of time, and the result is that your traffic grows. You might get 100 people off of the search engine one month, and as long as you can retain some of those people as your loyal readers, the next month when you get 100 people off the search engine, you will have had all those other people already built up. So therefore, each month as you go along, you can increase your traffic instead of keeping it the same. And honestly, you can build websites that use a bit of a combination of my two strategies, but ultimately, these two strategies teach you the two main types of websites that really exist almost anywhere on the internet. I specifically use it for Amazon, obviously, but you could obviously use it for pretty much anything else that you might happen to go after. If you promote ClickBank products, or even if you're promoting your own products that you're trying to sell, it really doesn't matter. Now, I punched in the links for these two pages into the chat box here. If you would like to go and take a look at them to find out a little bit more about what comes with these two different training programs, they're really, really extensive. I try not to do crazy long, extensive, boring sales pages where I detail every tiny little aspect of it. But once you get inside the member area of either of these two courses, you'll really be pretty blown away at the amount of training and other additional content and helpful goodies that come along with this, because I don't just teach it to you. If there's something involved with building the site that is technical based, I'll give you a template for it, or I'll give you a page that you can go to on my site and type in your details and it'll generate all the code for you. So you don't have to worry about all that extra stuff. And, that also makes it so you don't need to have all this prerequisite knowledge to actually be able to build all these websites. Sure, Kobing. I'd be happy to do that for you. Let me, if you just want to send me an email, okay. That is great that you have a starting point to go from. I'd really have to actually look at your site to be able to give you some advice on how you could scale from what you're already doing, because I think really every person's situation is unique. The niches you're targeting are unique. The way you're building your sites might be unique, and a lot of the advice and recommendations that I can offer, can base on all those fine details. Now, this original home study course, obviously this is still available at the normal price that you have always seen after you purchase Azon SEO Master. I can't always guarantee that it'll remain at that price, but at least for the time being, it will be staying at that current price. This extra home study course, my brand new one though, this is something I just have on special for a limited period of time. This will eventually get publicly launched and will be sold for more than what I am asking for here on my special page. So if you do have an interest in picking this up, even if you're still maybe working through my original home study course, I would recommend to go ahead and pick the second home study course up now, because once you get around to wanting to start it, it will likely not be available for the same price anymore then. Yes, Joseph, that's pretty much correct. A 20-page site needs a keyword phrase for each site plus a few other pages of related content. The other related content pages can be part of those 20 pages. You don't have to use 20 particular keyword phrases. But what I do recommend to do is try to only go after one phrase on any given page of your website, even though you're not going to be doing that on every page of your website. A common mistake is that people will try to go after 2 or 3 or 4 closely related phrases possibly on one given web page, and ultimately it just confuses Google in terms of what your page is really about. And so you might get a middle of the range ranking on all those different phrases, whereas if you just focus on one, you will at least be able to get as high of a ranking as possible by narrowing that focus down. And the other pages of related content that I recommend building onto a website, that's to give it a more natural look. Because go and look at any large website that is out there that is highly respected by Google perhaps. You don't have every page on those sites targeted to a keyword phrase. You have pages being built naturally, and some of them have keyword phrases and some of them don't have keyword phrases. So you want to try to give your own websites that same natural feel to them and not just make it look like you're just going after a big list of keywords that Google sends a lot of traffic to. Now, if you guys have any other questions for me, please feel free to ask. I don't mind taking a look at any quick questions you might have for me and trying to give you answers for them here real quick. Okay, Joseph, I will go and search for that. Did you email it to me, or did you send it to my support system? If you do have any additional questions for me, especially for anybody that might be watching this later on, you can get in touch with me through my support ticket system. At least for the time being. I am training some support staff over the next couple of weeks, and will eventually be kind of going on the back burner on support, but for now at least I still do my support personally. That address though is ryanstevensonplugins.com/support. Yes, Alistair, I actually do start my research from Amazon. In a lot of cases, I'll find a product and then try to translate that product into a keyword phrase and then go on to Google to continue my additional research. In my home study course here, that is actually the order that I go in. I begin on Amazon and then go over to Google. It can be done in either order, but that is just the direction I often go, because usually when I'm building a site at this point, I've run out of ideas of what to build a site about, so I'm looking for new niche ideas. And so that's why I like to start on Amazon. If you already have an idea though, you can definitely start on Google, in my opinion. Yeah, on my root domain, Kawing, I am targeting one main keyword phrase. It sometimes is more of a long tail phrase. It just kind of depends on what my website is about, really. I often build a lot of my websites out of just pages and not posts, but it will again depend on what kind of a website I'm building. When I'm building a static website, like I do in my first home study course, those are done with nothing but pages. When I'm building more of my blog style website, those will be done with posts, but I also build some websites that are kind of a combination of the two strategies, and I'll kind of mix and match. So it's really just depending on whether you're going to have new content being added to something. If that's the case, if you're going to add new content over the course of time, and maybe you have a homepage or a category page that you would want to link up to that new content as you add it, it can be a pain to constantly be going in and updating multiple pages when you're posting something new on your site, which you would have to do if you're only building pages. But if you're building posts in a particular way like that for the site that you want to update frequently, then you can really just focus on the new posts that are going into the site. So it really just kind of depends on what you're looking to put together and what your future plans for the website may be. The number of products that I promote in those 20 different pages, Joseph, will really sometimes vary. I'll look at each niche on an individual basis to try to figure that out. In some cases, it might only be 5 products on the entire website that I'm promoting. In other cases, it might be more like maybe 20 or 30 potentially. However, I try not to overload my sites with advertising. I try to put them in relevant places. If I'm building an informational type of website, I might build 10 to 15 pages that are informational, and then I might have another 5 to 8 pages that are on the website that are more product review type of pages. And then I would put the advertisement, obviously, on those product review pages, whereas my informational pages would be trying to lead people from the information to purchase one of the products that I have reviewed on my site. So then I can link everything up and kind of create a bit of a funnel flow through my website. Well, I hope all of you have picked up some valuable information from this extra training today. If you do have any questions, please feel free to get in touch with me. Joseph, I will check up on that you were asking about for me too. Again, I hope all of you have enjoyed it and taken something useful away from it. Even if you decide not to go on and pick up some extra training for me, it's quite okay. I hope you can still use my knowledge to help your search rankings improve, both now and in the future. Just keep your focus on quality and not on trying to trick Google. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you have a great night.